Gypsy Rose Blanchard is out from prison after serving an 8-year prison sentence, and she's taking the town in New York City.
Hey everybody, so we are in Times Square. Look at this. Isn't this epic? Oh my god, I'm so enjoying my time right now. We're just walking Times Square and doing a little shopping. I bought an I Love New York t-shirt, which was on my bucket list, so that was pretty awesome. Okay, stay tuned for more. Bye.
Now, if you're not familiar with Gypsy Rose's incredible story, she pled guilty to second-degree murder after her then-boyfriend killed her mother, Dee Dee. In court, Gypsy Rose argued she suffered years of abuse at the hands of her mother in the form of Munchausen by proxy, in which Dee Dee lied to countless medical professionals that Gypsy had severe physical and mental disabilities in order to get sympathy and attention.
So this is a very famous and unique story case. There was, I think there have been a number of documentaries, films about it. I've seen one of them. Many people are very compelled by it. Obviously, murder is wrong, but the suffering inflicted on Gypsy Rose by her mother is insane and vast. And this girl really, I mean, she was abused 4 years, forced to be in a wheelchair, forced not to use her legs, forced to perform sickness in front of other people. She did think she was sick. She thought she had these conditions, and it went on, and it was so evil that she met a man online, a boy, and persuaded him to take this course of action. Again, bad. She has now served her prison time and has been released. But a lot of people feel that this was a difficult situation for this young person. Even like the prosecutor was like, I've never seen a case like this in my life.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that background. So apparently the way that she got into the wheelchair in the first place is that she had a minor bike accident when she was younger that resulted in a scuff on her knee. The mother said, get into a wheelchair. It was not medically indicated. Her mother made her drink Pedialyte as her primary source of nutrition well into adulthood. She told her to lie about her age.
All the time. She said, you're about to die.
They lied about her age and gave the impression that she was younger than she was and not mentally competent. The mother shaved her head, saying that because you were sick, you are going to have to lose your hair anyway. So she had the appearance of someone who was going through chemotherapy treatment, even though she wasn't. She took her to multiple doctors so that they couldn't confirm each other's diagnosis.
When they would start to catch on, she would take them somewhere else.
So there was an initial non-diagnosis of muscular dystrophy. A muscle sample had results show that she did not suffer from that particular ailment. But doctors didn't uncover that for quite some time because there was this kind of three-card Monty of shuffling through doctors and medical records and never being fully transparent. She was not a good reporter, as they call it. Someone who was not good at articulating accurately, truthfully, the child's medical records, which caused a lot of confusion. And when doctors, began to catch on, they tended to just move away. And they also exploited the
charity. They exploited charity. They got her a house. They got her all sorts of things. It was very evil, very disturbed behavior from this mother who was just deeply psychotic. Gypsy Rose has the support of her father, her birth father. I think her mother's parents are again totally supportive of. I mean, not endorsing of murder necessarily, but saying what other choice did Gypsy Rose have given her situation? So she is out now, and she's been kind of a social media sensation. I think she's been out for the last year because a lot of people watched this documentary and again felt very sympathetic and compelled by her story. Again, I don't want to at all glorify taking matters into your own hands. But there is a argument of self-defense almost that can be mounted here. Now the boyfriend who committed the actual murder, and it was a grisly crime, and he got prison for life. So he's not out.
Yeah. So go to John, the then boyfriend. Apparently the plan unfollowed as follows. Gypsy and her mother were away at a doctor's appointment, and after they had gone home, the mother went to sleep. The boyfriend came into the family's home. Gypsy let him in and gave him duct tape, gloves, and a knife with the understanding that he would use it to murder Dee Dee, which explains why she also got a significant amount of prison time. But she did not actually commit the murder. She hid in the bathroom and allegedly covered her ears while that was going on. so as not to have to hear her mother being killed in the next room. It's really just, there's no winners in this situation. It's a terrible, tragic scenario for her to have been in. She did attempt escapes at various points. At one point, she was at a
convention,
Comic-Con style, sci-fi convention, and tried to escape. She also engaged in some risky behaviors, meeting up with men online. She was vulnerable to predation because she had never been exposed to the real world and had a very legitimate desire to escape and to escape at any means necessary. So again, people are rooting for her because she was in unimaginable conditions, and who knows what any of us would have done in those kinds of scenarios. But we're all very hopeful that she's able to be happy now that she's out and that she doesn't get exploited further, because there have been some people who have reached out to her with some probably less than ideal offers for her to engage in now that she's out. She needs to earn money,
I have heard the concern articulated that, again, I think a figure of tremendous sympathy has now served her time, and that was appropriate, and is now out, and I think she has served her time, and like other people who, do the crime, do the time, now should be able to enjoy her life, the life she was deprived of before prison under these horrific circumstances. I have heard the concern expressed that perhaps we ought to be careful about making her too much of some kind of folk hero, for concern that there will be copycat type things or giving the wrong impression to young girls. I've just heard that fear articulated, so I wanted to put it out there.
I mean, how common is Munchausen by proxy? It feels like a very rare...
No, not that common. I don't know that it's specifically the concern is that people actually in that situation would do the same thing, but that it'd be part of some icon of teen rebellion or something against your parents.
Well, she did also serve time, so
she did.
If people want to rebel in a way that gives them 8 years in prison, that's a pretty lofty consequence.
They should not do that.
That I think has got a pretty strong deterrent built in there.
Yeah, the story for me when I watched the documentary, just the things you can get away with still somehow in society, the multiple scams this mother was running, and people did catch on, and they made some good faith efforts. Doctors did, other people did, to follow up, but she was able to move where she lived and disguise this fact. Neighbors would start to catch on, and she would move again. So it's not like everyone was blind to some obvious truth. People would catch on and they'd say something, but then it would fall through the cracks. And she perpetrated this with the mother for years and years and years and years, convincing her daughter that she was sick, that she was about to die, that she couldn't use her legs, so she shouldn't use them. Truly wild.
Was it Jeffrey Dahmer who very famously had one of his victims escaped, but because he preyed on men, young gay men, and because so many of his victims were black and brown, when the person escaped and got to a police officer and was explaining what had happened, it had been clearly stripped naked and was bloody and was in distress, when Dahmer came along, charming and middle-class presenting and white, and said to the cop, "Oh, no, this isn't what it looks like," the cop returned the victim to Dahmer and the victim was ultimately killed. I mean, the systemic failures in these kind of scenarios abound, and I think you're right to point them out. What mechanisms should exist for children to be able to advocate for themselves, especially, what's so tragic about this case is that she did have relationships with people. She had a friendship with a young woman that lived across the street. The young woman thought she was much older than Gypsy Rose. They were age peers, but she would confide in her, talk about wanting to meet up with people from the internet, those kinds of things. But you have to know that you're being victimized to explain to someone else that you need to be saved. And I do think that's one of the more poignant aspects of this story. It's not as though she was kept in a locked box in the basement, but she was
paraded around.
In her own delusion. She thought she was sick. She thought she believed her mother.
Right.
And that betrayal of trust, you expect to be able to believe your mother.
Right.
And I think that is really what pulls at the heartstrings of the story, is that she was betrayed in such a fundamental way by the person you're supposed to be able to trust the most in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, stay around. More Rising after this.